In the 6 years that I've been working at the Museum of Timekeeping, there are so many stories that have piqued my interest and fascinated me, not just to do with the development of precision timekeepers themselves, but also the social history of timekeeping more generally. One that has really stood out to me is the fact that timekeeping didn't used to be standardised. This means that until the middle of the 19th century, it didn't matter where you were in the country. There wasn't one standard time. Every town, city and village used their own time standard, using the exact solar time for their position on the globe. And this works very well. It means that you know exactly what time it is in Newark, Nottinghamshire, where we are now, but that might be several minutes adrift of where they were in London. It only really became a problem when transport links started to improve. Up until this time, the main veins, I suppose, of transport and travel in the country was all done by waterway. It didn't really matter if you were a few minutes adrift on the canals because everyone was chugging along at their own speed anyway. What changed everything was the advent of the railway. And when railways first were brought in as this wonderful new way of getting goods from A to B more quickly, more efficiently, and in a more timely fashion too, people realised very quickly that if you were setting a train from London to arrive at, let's say, Grantham station at midday, but Grantham is maybe 6 minutes ahead, you're going to have a problem if there's a train in the station that hasn't been released, because that London train is going to come and smack straight into the back of it. Now, the government first started calling for some kind of standardised time as early as 1848. However, it wasn't until 40 years later, in 1888, that the government finally made it law. Everybody had to adhere to Greenwich Mean Time countrywide. However, people are stubborn. People tied a lot of their own town's character, their own town's personality, and their own sense of pride, pride of place, into having their own time. This meant that even after that law was passed in 1888, a number of clocks were made for large public buildings, guild halls and the like, that had two separate dials on them, one of which was going to show Greenwich time, as was law, and one of which that was going to show local time. So people really didn't want to give up on this piece of heritage of their sense of place. Now, pocket watches by this time had become very advanced. We are talking post-advent of chronometers at this point. So their escapements were incredibly accurate, real precision timekeepers that would keep time in all sorts of weather conditions, etc. But they weren't easy to read because they were so often small and delicate and fine, and on a very smoky, steamy platform with the steam trains, it would be very hard to read the time. So what we start to see are pocket watches much like these. And these pocket watches, known as Goliath pocket watches, are very large timepieces. And we can see that the Roman numerals around them are really heavy in their typography. So very easy to read with very heavy, thick, dark hands as well. So once everybody was using the Greenwich Mean Time, the question remained, how do you get that Greenwich Mean Time from London, where it was read at the Royal Observatory, to the rest of the country? This could be really problematic. However, using these very accurate pocket watches, they used the mail coaches to take the time around the country. Almost all mail from London was taken by coach up and down the country on a daily basis. And as the mailman would deliver the post, he would also pass the time of day, and this is where that phrase comes from, to those collecting their letters. So they would give them the accurate Greenwich time from their pocket watches to those at the sorting offices or to those who they were hand delivering their letters to, who could then pass on the time of day to others as well. And that way the time was transported up and down the country, enabling all of us to be standardised to Greenwich Mean Time.